The rain hammered against the ambulance windshield as Nathan Reed guided the vehicle through Toronto's empty streets. 3am calls were usually drunk teens or elderly falls, but tonight's dispatch mentioned unusual circumstances at High Park. His partner Tom dozed in the passenger seat, having mastered the EMT skill of catching sleep whenever possible. The park entrance loomed ahead, dark and unwelcoming. Nathan activated the spotlight, sweeping it across rain-slicked trees and empty benches. That's when he saw it, a strange, pulsing blue glow behind a cluster of bushes. "Tom, wake up," Nathan said, already reaching for his medkit. "We've got something." The glow grew stronger as they approached, casting eerie shadows through the rain. Nathan's breath caught in his throat. Lying in a shallow crater was a woman, if you could call her that. Her skin seemed to shift colors like oil on water, and geometric patterns traced themselves across her face and arms in living light. "Holy shit," Tom whispered, frozen in place. The being's eyes opened, all three of them, revealing swirling silver irises. She tried to move but collapsed with a musical cry of pain. Nathan's training kicked in, overriding his shock. Injured was injured, human or not. "She's hurt," Nathan said, kneeling beside her. "Hand me the trauma kit." Tom didn't move. "We need to call this in. This is way above our pay grade." "Look at her." Nathan gestured to the alien's wounds, which seemed to weep light rather than blood. "You really want to see her disappear into some government facility?" The alien woman's gaze locked onto Nathan's face. Despite her otherworldly appearance, he recognized the universal language of fear and pain in those strange eyes. She reached out with a trembling hand, touching his arm. Instantly, his mind filled with fractured images. A massive ship burning, escape pods launching, pursuit through the stars. "They're hunting me," her thoughts echoed in his head. "Please, help." Tom was already backing away, reaching for his radio. Nathan made a split-second decision that would change his life forever. He grabbed the radio from Tom's hand and threw it into the bushes. "What the hell, man?" Tom sputtered. "Tom, you're my best friend. But right now, you need to decide. Are you going to help me save a life, or are you going to make a call that might end one?" Rain pounded around them as Tom struggled with the choice. Finally, he cursed and knelt down, opening the trauma kit. "The things I do for you, Reed. How do we even treat an alien?" Nathan smiled grimly, already assessing the strange wounds. "Same as anyone else. Stop the bleeding, stabilize, transport. We'll figure out the details later." They worked quickly, applying pressure bandages to the glowing injuries. The alien remained conscious, occasionally sending more fragmented thoughts to Nathan. He learned her name was Zyra, though that was the closest human approximation. She was a scientist who discovered something that made her a target. "My apartment's not far," Nathan told her as they carefully lifted her into the ambulance. "We can't take you to a hospital, but I've got supplies there." Tom took the wheel while Nathan stayed in back with Zura. As they drove through the rain-soaked city, Nathan held her hand, trying to project calm and safety through whatever connection they shared. Her skin's shifting colors gradually settled into a soft blue glow. "Why help?" her thought voice asked. Nathan considered the question. "Because it's right. Because you needed it. Because sometimes the most human thing we can do is help someone who's not human at all." A wave of warmth flowed through their connection. Gratitude, relief, and something else he couldn't quite name. Zyra's third eye closed as she finally allowed herself to rest, her hand still gripping his. Nathan knew his life would never be the same after tonight. He'd have to call in sick tomorrow, figure out how to hide an alien in his apartment, and somehow keep this massive secret. But watching the gentle rise and fall of Zyra's chest, seeing the trust she placed in him, he knew he'd made the right choice. What he didn't know yet was that this rainy night would lead to an adventure spanning galaxies, a love that defied species, and a destiny neither of them could have imagined. But for now, In the back of an ambulance carrying precious cargo through the sleeping city, Nathan Reed simply held on to a glowing hand and promised himself he would protect her, no matter what came next. Far above the clouds, unnoticed by the city below, a massive shadow passed across the moon. The hunt had followed Zira to Earth, and soon Nathan would learn just how far he'd go to keep his promise. Nathan's one-bedroom apartment had never felt smaller than when he was trying to hide an alien. After Tom helped him get Zira inside, his partner had left with a warning. "You've got 48 hours before I have to report the missing radio. Whatever you're planning, do it fast." The morning sun filtered through drawn blinds as Nathan checked Zira's wounds. The glowing injuries had dimmed to a soft shimmer, and her color-shifting skin had settled into a peaceful azure. She lay on his bed while he took the couch, though sleep eluded him entirely. "Your primitive medicine." Zira's thought voice touched his mind. "Stronger now." It helped. "Thank you." Nathan looked up from his first aid kit to find all three of her eyes open, studying him. "Primitive, huh?" He smiled. "Worked well enough." She sat up carefully, geometric patterns rippling across her skin in what he was beginning to recognize as expressions. "My species heals quickly." The bandages provided adequate time for cellular regeneration. "About your species," Nathan said, pulling up a chair. "I think it's time you told me what's really going on. Who's hunting you?" Zira's patterns shifted to darker hues. Through their mental connection, Nathan felt waves of fear and resignation. She raised her hand, and suddenly the air between them filled with holographic images, star systems, ships, and creatures he could barely comprehend. "I am what you would call a xenobiologist," she explained. "My work involved studying the genetic compatibility between species. We discovered that humans possess unique genetic markers, adaptable, resilient. Some believed this made Earth a threat. Others, like myself, saw opportunity." "Opportunity for what?" "Evolution. Cooperation. A chance for both our species to grow stronger together." Her patterns flickered with anxiety. "But there are those among my kind who fear change. They would rather eliminate potential threats than understand them." Nathan absorbed this, running a hand through his disheveled hair. "So these hunters, they're not just after you. They're a threat to Earth." "Yes. My escape pod's landing will have given them the confirmation they sought. They will come, Nathan Reed, and they will not show the kindness you have." Before Nathan could respond, a sharp knock at the door made them both freeze. Through the mental link, he felt Zira's panic spike. "Nathan, it's Jessica from next door. I heard noises last night. Is everything okay?" "Hide," he whispered to Zira, who immediately shifted her coloring to match his bedroom walls, becoming nearly invisible. It was both terrifying and fascinating. Nathan opened the door just enough to see his neighbor's concerned face. "Hey Jess, sorry about the noise. Had a rough shift, dropped some things when I got home." Jessica tried to peek past him. "Are you sure? I could have sworn I heard voices." "Just the TV," he said quickly. "Listen, I'm actually trying to get some sleep after my shift." "Oh, of course, sorry." Jessica stepped back, but her expression remained suspicious. "You know you can talk to me if anything's wrong, right?" "Everything's fine," Nathan assured her, already closing the door. "Thanks for checking." When he turned around, Zira had reappeared, her patterns showing what he interpreted as amusement. "Your heart rate elevates when you deceive others. You are not practiced at hiding truths." "Yeah, well, I've never had to hide an alien in my apartment before," he sighed, dropping onto the couch. "We need a better plan. I can't keep calling in sick forever, and you can't stay hidden here indefinitely." Zira moved to sit beside him, her movements graceful despite her recent injuries. "There may be others of my kind who share my beliefs, those who would help protect Earth, but contacting them would risk revealing our location." Nathan felt the weight of the choice before them. Risk exposure by reaching out for help, or try to handle this impossible situation alone. But as he looked at Zira, saw the way her patterns formed complex swirls of worry and hope. He realized something else was happening between them, something neither of them had planned for. "Your temperature increases when you look at me that way," Zyra observed, her thought voice carrying a hint of what might have been teasing. Is this a normal human response? Nathan felt his face grow warmer. "Sometimes. When we find someone interesting." "Interesting," she repeated, her patterns shifting to colors he hadn't seen before. "Humans are indeed fascinating. You act against logic, risk your safety for strangers, and your bodies betray your thoughts so easily." Their mental connection hummed with unspoken possibilities. Nathan was about to respond when suddenly Zyra stiffened, her patterns flaring with alarm. "They're here," she whispered in his mind. "In orbit. Earlier than I calculated." As if to confirm her words, Nathan's phone buzzed with an emergency alert. Unusual atmospheric phenomena observed over major cities. Citizens advised to remain calm and stay indoors. "How long do we have?" he asked, already moving to pack essentials. Zyra's response chilled him. "They are not here for a lengthy observation, Nathan Reed. They are here to erase what they fear." Her hand found his, their fingers intertwining naturally despite their differences. "We have until nightfall to find a way to save your world." Outside, clouds began gathering unnaturally fast, and Nathan realized the rain that had brought them together might be nothing compared to the storm that was coming. The city sky had turned an unnatural shade of green by noon. Nathan watched from his apartment window as military helicopters circled downtown Toronto, their searchlights cutting through the strange atmospheric disturbance. His phone hadn't stopped buzzing with emergency alerts and messages from concerned family members. "Your military preparations are futile," Zyra observed, her patterns pulsing with concern as she studied the ships now visible through the clouds. Massive dark shapes that made aircraft carriers look like toys. "Their technology can disable your weapons before they're deployed." Nathan pulled the blinds shut. "Then we need another way. You said there might be others like you, allies. How do we reach them?" Zyra's third eye closed in concentration. "My ship's communication array survived the crash, but retrieving it means returning to the park. To access the emergency beacon, I require components from the wreckage." "The park will be crawling with authorities by now," Nathan said, but he was already grabbing his paramedic uniform. "Good thing I have a legitimate reason to be there." Their mental connection flooded with Zyra's protest. "The risk is too great. If they capture you, they'll what?" Question a first responder checking the crash site. "It's better than them finding you." He touched her arm gently, watching her patterns swirl at the contact. "Trust me." The drive back to High Park was tense. Nathan had convinced Tom to cover for him at work, claiming family emergency. His partner's only response had been a knowing, "Don't get yourself killed." Military checkpoints had been set up around the park's perimeter, but Nathan's EMT credentials got him through. "Standard protocol," he explained to the young soldier. "We need to check for any environmental hazards from the crash." The crater where he'd found Zyra was now surrounded by researchers in hazmat suits. Nathan parked the ambulance nearby, trying to look professional as he retrieved his kit. Through their mental link, Zyra guided him. "The beacon core will look like a crystalline structure, approximately the size of your hand. It should be giving off a faint purple luminescence." Nathan methodically searched the area, keeping his movements purposeful. The researchers barely glanced at him, too absorbed in their own measurements. Finally, beneath a twisted piece of metal that still hummed with strange energy, he spotted it, a purple crystal partially buried in the soil. Just as his fingers closed around it, a familiar voice called out, "Find anything interesting, Mr. Reed?" Nathan turned to face Jessica, his neighbor, but she wasn't dressed in her usual casual wear. Instead, she wore a black suit and carried herself with military precision. Two armed agents flanked her. "You've been under surveillance since the incident," Jessica said, her friendly demeanor replaced by cold professionalism. "Where is the entity you harbored?" Nathan's mind raced, but Zyra's thought voice steadied him. "The crystal. she urged. "Break it." Without hesitation, Nathan threw the crystal to the ground. It shattered with a high-pitched tone that made everyone clutch their heads. In that moment of chaos, he ran. Gunshots rang out behind him as he sprinted through the park. Through their connection, he felt Zira's desperate focus. "The signal has been sent," she told him, "but we must survive long enough for help to arrive." Nathan reached the ambulance, engine already running. As he peeled away from the park, his mirror showed black SUVs in pursuit. Above, one of the alien ships was moving lower, its massive shadow darkening the streets. "Your people or theirs?" he asked Zira through their link. Nathan looked up to see a military roadblock ahead, wheels screeching as he took a sharp turn down an alley. The maneuver bought them seconds at best. "Zira," he fought back, "if we don't make it, I need you to know something." Her patterns fill his mind with swirling colors he'd never seen before. "I know, Nathan Reed. I feel it too. This connection between us. It is unprecedented in my species' history. Perhaps that is why they fear us so much." The ambulance burst out of the alley onto a wider street, but Nathan's brief moment of relief vanished as he saw what waited ahead. 3 black SUVs had blocked the road, and above them hung one of the smaller alien craft, its weapons clearly trained on their position. "No other paths," Zira observed calmly. "What do humans do in situations like this?" Nathan tightened his grip on the wheel, a reckless plan forming. "Sometimes, when there's no good choice, we make a really bad one." He floored the accelerator, aiming straight for the gap between 2 SUVs. The alien ship's weapons began to glow. But before either Nathan's desperate plan or the aliens' weapons could determine their fate, the green sky split open with a deafening crack. Through their mental link, Nathan felt Zira's surge of joy as new ships appeared, sleeker, brighter vessels that immediately engaged the dark ones above. "The signal worked," she breathed in his mind. "The Liberation Fleet received my message." As energy weapons lit up the sky and the opposing forces scattered, Nathan finally let himself smile. "So, want to introduce me to your friends?" Zira's patterns danced with what he now recognized as laughter. "If we survive the next few minutes, Nathan Reed, I will introduce you to much more than that. There are others in the galaxy who dream of a future where our peoples can be together. Perhaps we can show them the way." The battle above them intensified, and Nathan realized this was just the beginning of their story. The road ahead would be challenging, but as he felt Zira's presence in his mind, saw the hope in all 3 of her eyes, he knew every choice that had led to this moment had been worth it. Toronto had become a battleground. The Liberation Fleet's arrival had turned the invasion into a chaotic 3-way conflict between the hostile aliens, Zira's allies, and Earth's military forces who were shooting at both sides indiscriminately. Nathan guided the ambulance through streets littered with debris from the aerial battle, while Zira maintained mental contact with her allies above. "The Council ship has breached atmosphere," she reported, her patterns shifting to urgent reds and violets. "They carry a planetary sterilization device. Your world's authorities must cease fire against our defenders, or we'll all perish." "Great. We just need to convince the entire world's military to trust aliens. Should be easy." Nathan swerved to avoid a falling piece of spacecraft. "Any ideas how?" Through their connection, he felt Zira's mind race through possibilities. "There is one way. The Council values hierarchy and protocol above all. If we could broadcast proof of our genetic compatibility, a successful human-alien bond, it would force them to halt the sterilization on ethical grounds." Nathan almost crashed the ambulance. "Wait, are you suggesting what I think you're suggesting?" "A biological connection ritual," Zira confirmed, her patterns forming complex geometric shapes he'd never seen before. "My people call it the Meridian Bond. It's theoretically possible between compatible species, but it's never been attempted with humans. And if it fails, then we die slightly sooner than everyone else." A massive explosion rocked the city as one of the defending ships took a direct hit, spiraling into Lake Ontario. Nathan made his decision. What do we need to do? The ritual requires a secure location, and Zyra's patterns shifted to what he now recognized as embarrassment. We need a witness, someone of authority in your society. Nathan thought quickly. Tom. He's not exactly an authority, but he's a licensed medical professional. That has to count for something. He grabbed his phone, dialing one-handed while dodging another piece of falling debris. Tom. Remember that favor you owe me. 20 minutes later, they pulled into the underground parking garage of Toronto General Hospital. Tom was waiting by the service entrance, looking pale but determined. The basement lab is secure, he said, leading them through maintenance corridors. But you've got maybe 30 minutes before someone notices I've locked down this section. Want to tell me what's so important it couldn't wait until after the alien invasion? As they entered the lab, Zyra's skin began to glow brighter. She explained the ritual to Tom, whose professional curiosity gradually overcame his fear. So it's basically an advanced form of genetic engineering, using bioluminescent markers to... Holy shit, that's brilliant. Less analyzing, more witnessing, Nathan said, checking his phone. The news showed the council ship moving into position above the city. We're running out of time. Zyra guided Nathan to stand opposite her. The process will be intense. Our minds will fully merge. Are you certain? Nathan took her hands, feeling the now familiar warmth of their connection. I've been certain since that night in the rain. The ritual began with a soft humming that seemed to come from Zyra's entire body. Her patterns of light spread from her hands to Nathan's skin, creating intricate designs that burned and soothed simultaneously. Their mental link expanded until Nathan couldn't tell where his thoughts ended and hers began. Through their merged consciousness, he experienced her entire life, the wonder of growing up among the stars, the excitement of discovering Earth's potential, the fear of being hunted, and finally, the unexpected joy of finding him. In return, she felt his memories, his hopes, his growing love for her that defied conventional explanation. Tom watched in amazement as their bodies began to glow with shared bioluminescence, the patterns perfectly synchronized. Their vital signs are merging. He muttered into a recorder. Brainwave patterns, body temperature, even their cellular structure is adapting. The ritual reached its peak. Nathan felt something fundamental in his DNA shift and change, while Zyra's third eye began to glow with unprecedented brightness. Their combined consciousness reached out, broadcasting the success of their bond to every ship in orbit. Through their shared awareness, they felt the Council ship's weapons power down. The sterilization device was deactivated. Above Toronto, the hostile ships began to retreat. As their consciousness gradually separated back into two distinct minds, Nathan found he could still feel Zyra's presence, stronger than ever. New senses had awakened in him. He could see spectrums of light he never knew existed, feel the electromagnetic pulses of nearby electronics. The bond was successful, Zyra said, both aloud and in his mind. Her patterns showed pure joy. The Council cannot deny the evidence. Our peoples are compatible. The law requires them to protect Earth now. Tom was still recording. This is incredible. The implications for medicine alone. Hey, are you two okay? Nathan realized they were both swaying on their feet. The ritual had taken more energy than either of them expected. But as he helped Zyra to a nearby chair, he couldn't stop smiling. We're better than okay. We just changed everything. Through their enhanced bond, he felt Zyra's amusement. Indeed, though perhaps we should have discussed children before attempting an irreversible genetic merger. Nathan froze. Children. The bond makes it possible, she said, her patterns forming what he now recognized as a teasing smile. Not immediately, of course, but eventually. Above them, the sounds of battle had ceased. Toronto's strange green sky was clearing, revealing stars that seemed somehow brighter than before. Through their bond, Nathan and Zyra sensed the Liberation Fleet establishing peaceful contact with Earth's authorities. Tom shook his head, turning off his recorder. So, I just witnessed the first human-alien marriage, didn't I? Marriage, diplomatic treaty, and scientific breakthrough all in one, Zyra confirmed. Efficient, wouldn't you say? Nathan pulled her close, watching their shared bioluminescence create new patterns where their skin touched. That's one word for it. I was thinking more along the lines of perfect. 1 year after the day that changed everything, Nathan stood on the balcony of the newly constructed Interstellar Relations Center in Toronto, watching ships from a dozen different worlds drift peacefully through Earth's skies. The Meridian bond he shared with Zyra hummed contentedly in his mind as she finished her presentation inside. Through their connection, he felt her approaching before he heard her steps. Her patterns glowed with satisfaction. The Council has officially recognized Earth as a protected evolutionary partner, she announced. All forms of cross-species bonds are now legally sanctioned. Nathan turned to embrace her, their shared bioluminescence creating a soft aurora around them. Just in time, he said, placing a hand gently on her abdomen, where a faint new pattern had begun to form 3 months ago. Their child would be the first of its kind, a bridge between stars and worlds. The pregnancy had caused quite a stir in both human and alien medical communities, with Tom leading the research team studying the unprecedented genetic merger.